have our two growers, A and B, and they're both working to try and achieve the same shared goal, but they're using different techniques. That goal is to try and grow out of season fruit and veg in the most cost efficient manner possible. Now obviously lots of different factors have a bearing on this, but what we're interested in is what is B's advantage over A in terms of expenditure on plastic material for the polytunnels. Okay, so let's call the width of the field, let's call that 2R. Now that's going to be the diameter of the half cylinder of polytunnel that grower A is going to need to make. Now let's call the length of the field L. Now if we work out how much plastic the grower A is going to need, let's call that SA, where the A stands for grower A. If we use the formula for the surface area of a cylinder, then that's just going to be pi times R times L. Okay, so grower B has put up these 5 separate polytunnels which are going to have widths 2R1, 2R2, all the way up to 2R5. Now these polytunnels butt up against each other nicely, so that means that we can write 2R1 plus 2R2 plus all the way up to 2R5 is equal to 2R, because the width of the polytunnels individually has to be the total width of the field, which we've already said is 2R. Okay, so in order to work out the amount of plastic that grower B is going to need to cover his field, we need to work out the individual amounts of plastic that's going to be used for each one of his polytunnels and then add them together. So let's call that SB, where this time the B is for grower B. And we can use the same formula that we used before for the surface area of the half cylinder, which gives us that the surface area of the first polytunnel is going to be pi times R1 times L, and the next one pi times R2 times L, plus all the way up to pi times R5 times L. Now, if you notice, in each one of these terms there's a pi and there's an L, pi and an L. So what we can do is take out a factor of pi times L, and we're left with pi times L times R1 plus R2 plus R3 plus all the way up to R5. And now what we can do is use the formula that we've got up here, which just says that R1 plus R2 plus all the way up to R5 is just equal to R. So we can write this as pi times L times R. And where have we seen that formula before? Here. So the amount of plastic used by grower A is actually the same as the amount used by grower B. So there's actually no saving to be made at all by using the smaller polytunnels.